Welcome to another episode of the Sunday preview for this seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time in the Church's calendar. And we're reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6. And it's part of the Sermon on the Mount, according to St. Luke. It says, Jesus said to his disciples, "To you who hear, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. To the person who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other as well. And from the person who takes your cloak, do not withhold even your tunic. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from the one who takes what is yours, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. For if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. If you lend money to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But rather, love your enemies, do good to them, and lend, expect nothing back. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he himself is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Stop judging, and you will not be judged. Stop condemning, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and the gift will be given to you. A good measure, packed together, shaken down and overflowing, will be poured out onto your lap. For the measure with which you measure will, in return, be measured out to you." The Gospel of the Lord. You know, this Sermon on the Mount is really the centerpiece of Jesus's whole moral teaching, on the way Christians ought to be in the world, how we ought to deal with others. And it's really almost, you might say, the foundation of all the rest of Christian living, is this teaching that he gives us here. And it goes so much against our modern mindset of just, treating others, the way they've treated us, and living in strict justice. And Jesus is asking us to do something much more than that, to go beyond, to be generous, to be giving, to forgive the people who aren't sorry, to love your enemies and pray for them and work for them and do good to them. It's just a different kind of mentality. And people have a lot of trouble with it today, just as they did back then in Jesus' time. It's interesting, the first reading for this Sunday is in the book of Samuel, and it's the scene where David, now it's before he's king, he's being pursued by King Saul, who's trying to kill him because he's jealous of David's popularity. And David now is destined to be king. He knows it. And he has an opportunity to kill Saul. He comes upon him while he's asleep, and his troops are urging him to let them kill Saul and get him out of the way. And David refuses to touch the anointed of the Lord, even though he's on this campaign, almost obsessed with killing David. And later on, as it turns out, Saul is killed in a battle, and David ascends to the kingship. And, David had that act of mercy and forgiveness towards Saul, and then put himself in God's hands. He put the whole affair in God's hands. And we need a little bit more of that, where we're trusting in God, that if we do as Jesus taught us, to love even when people aren't lovable, to forgive even when they're not sorry, to go beyond. That's what the Christian has to do. And then put it in God's hands. We're never going to exact perfect justice from people. Jesus wants us to think in a different way. And I always think, how do I want people to remember me afterwards, after I'm gone? I think I want them to say, that was a really generous person. He was good and forgiving. He was always had that love in his heart. Rather than, he was able to give back just as Much as they gave out to him, he gave it back in equal measure. No. Who wants to be remembered like that? No. Let's build that future with generosity.